Hi, everybody. Welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. We have an update from the Temple Institute and the Sanhedrin about the red heifers and what happened on July 1st, because reportedly it was the real ceremony, not just a practice run. And the last time we talked about this, we were looking at this video from my friend Adam Eliyahu Berkowitz. He's a journalist for Israel 365 News. I've talked to him a number of times. He's my most solid connection to the Temple Institute and what's actually happening. Here's me and Adam. Here's Adam and Rabbi Azariah Ariel. And here's the Temple Institute website showing that Rabbi Ariel is the head of the research department, and he's essentially the one that's over the red heifers and the ceremony. So what happened was you had these people coming out. This is Adam King. He was on a podcast called Timcast IRL, and he was making the claim that the ceremony that took place on July 1st of this year was actually the real thing. And he has a little baggie saying that he has some of the actual kosher ashes from the red heifer. One of you had sent me an email to make me aware of this, and I felt right off the bat that it was highly suspect because they've been trying so hard for so long to get these ashes. It's been a really complicated process and not the easiest thing to do. According to Judaism, this would only be the 10th time in history that the Jews have successfully performed this mitzvah or commandment of getting the ashes for the red heifers. And they're supposed to be used to purify the Jewish people. And that's critical in order to do certain things. I think most of the things in the temple whenever that's reconstructed. So to think that they would give him a baggie of some of the ashes just doesn't really make sense, because they kind of need those to last as long as possible, because who knows how long it's going to be until another red heifer is produced, right? It doesn't really make sense. And so I looked at this with suspicion. But Adam, in this video, this is his channel. I'll put a link for this in the description box below. He was hearing from different people that, this was the real thing. And Adam was kind of left disillusioned with the Temple Institute because he was getting so much conflicting information. And he didn't know really what to believe. And he felt like the Temple Institute wasn't doing their part to be clear about what had happened, and that they may actually be on board with that ceremony, even though it seems obviously not kosher. It wasn't done in the right place. It wasn't done on the Mount of Olives. And there were other things too. I'm not going to go into all that. And he said this was going to be the last time that he spoke on the red heifers because he was really upset about it. Okay, well, I just checked this today. This is an article from today by Adam on Israel 365 News. Update and clarification regarding the red heifer from the Temple Institute and the Sanhedrin. Okay, so both the Temple Institute and the Sanhedrin both put out an official statement about this, and that's what we're going to go over in this video. This green part is the statement from the Temple Institute. You can find it on their website, but I'm just going to read it from Israel 365 News. And then the purple part is the statement from the Sanhedrin. I don't know. Well, I didn't really look, but I'm not sure where their website is, if they have one. But it's all right here in this article by Adam. So let's go ahead and start right here. The burning of the red heifer on July 1st marked a significant moment in Jewish tradition, sparking considerable discussion. To say the least. Everybody who's interested in this has had something to say about it. Some people thinking that it's real, other people thinking that it's not. I recently came across this video. Sling and Stone. I'm not familiar with this channel. I think that they copied the original interview, but this is Byron. What's his name? Byron Stinson. Yeah, Byron Stenson. He's the one that gave the Temple Institute 5 potential candidates, or 5 red heifers that were potential candidates for the ceremony. And apparently, he was interviewed by a radio station in San Antonio, and he was telling people. Now, I haven't verified this myself. I'm just looking at the transcript right here. So according to Sling and Stone, Byron said that this was the actual thing, and I guess he has some of the ashes right here, and that the ashes were used to heal people, which is not what the ashes are for. So there's just been like all this stuff, like, and I'm not saying that Adam King is bad. I'm not saying that he's bad. Maybe they just misunderstood. Maybe there were miscommunications. Who the heck knows? But there's been all sorts of talk and speculation about what happened. So, the Temple Institute, which has long been preparing for this ritual, issued its first official statement on the event, addressing the various claims circulating across media platforms such as YouTube. Additionally, the Sanhedrin has issued its own statement regarding the event, lending further clarity and direction to the ongoing process. And it has been a process. I have a spreadsheet called Judaism Temple Preparation. The link for my spreadsheets is in the description box of each video. So you can access this anytime. It's best if you use a desktop or a laptop. But this is my attempt to capture all the main events. These are all primarily the work of the Temple Institute. All the main milestones of preparing to build the third temple, and part of that is successfully doing the ceremony of the red heifers. Earlier this year, I added column I so you can more easily see which one of these rows have to do with the red heifers. Here's my first one. Let's just go through this really quick. So March 28th, 2016. This is my first item that I have on this spreadsheet relating to the red heifers. Announcement of of compiling a list of Jewish priests who would be eligible to prepare the red heifer and serve in the temple. The announcement coincides with the weekly Torah reading that describes the preparation of the red heifer. I don't know if that was planned or not, or if that was just meant to be divine timing. September 15th, 2022, 5 red heifers arrive in Israel from Texas. And like I said, these were brought from Texas to Israel. And this is the rancher that owned them, Byron Stenson. And you had the Temple Institute involved because they're the ones that are overseeing this. And they're working with this organization called Bona Israel, which my understanding is it's like a Christian organization that are also enthusiastic about the temple. 3rd of April, 2024, young Cohen, or Jewish priest, identified, young Cohen identified who is qualified or ritually pure to perform the red heifer ceremony. August 6th of last year, reenactment of red heifer ceremony. And this is not the same type of reenactment where there was like actual fire. It was just like a dry run. May 7th of this year, Rabbi Ariel says it's unclear if any of the red heifers are suitable for the ceremony. So imagine my shock and everybody else's shock when on July 1st, there was an actual practice run with fire and one of the red heifers. And some people were saying afterwards that it was the real thing. Right? So that brings us to today. Okay, the Temple Institute statement reads as follows. In light of incorrect information that has been published regarding the red heifer, the Temple Institute would like to announce, number 1, for about 10 years, the Temple Institute has been engaged in preparations for producing the ashes of the red heifer, both from an educational and practical perspective. The observance of these commandments, the raising of the red heifer according to Torah law, and the production of kosher ashes for the purification of the ritually impure is very complex and includes thousands of details, which require great knowledge and skill in execution. Now, I've talked about that fact with Rabbi Gerfine. Israel 365 set me up with a rabbi from uh, West Jerusalem, and I spoke to him for the better part of like maybe 2.5 years, something like that. And he talked about how there were a lot of interesting legal discussions. And when I say legal, I mean according to Jewish law, of how this is going to happen and things that need to be worked out. By the way, Adam is from Israel as well. Okay, therefore, the process also includes a number of practical experiments and exercises. Number 2, about 3 months ago, a practice was held. So right here, this is the first official word that we're getting from the Temple Institute that it was in fact a practice. About 3 months ago, a practice was held in the Sumerian mountains in which a simulation of the making of the making of the ashes of the red heifer was conducted. Number 3, of course, ashes of the red heifer that are not made on the Mount of Olives while facing the site of the Holy Temple are completely invalid. And you guys, that was one of my first hints. When I saw the video, there was like a short video that was published and there were pictures. And I could tell that it wasn't on the Mount of Olives because I'm familiar with what it looks like. Especially ever since I started this channel, I've been looking at the Mount of Olives a lot. I've done a lot of videos that talk about it. And the area just did not look like the Mount of Olives. And then later I confirmed that with Adam, and that's where it's supposed to be. It talks about it in the scriptures. It's supposed to be within sight of the Holy of Holies. I guess there used to be like a causeway or like a walkway that went from the Mount of Olives to the Temple Mount. And there was a certain spot where the priests could look directly at the Holy of Holies. If you have like all the gates and doors open, and that's where it's supposed to happen. So this was one of the things that Adam was really upset about. He's like, it's pretty clear it's supposed to happen from the Mount of Olives. So I don't know what they're thinking if they're saying that this was the real thing. Well, thankfully for Adam and in his relationship with the Temple Institute, they are confirming, no, it's not valid because it was not on the Mount of Olives. Okay, therefore, we clarify that the simulation was only an exercise, part of a series of exercises that were, and with God's help, will continue to be conducted before we are properly prepared to fulfill the mitzvah, which is another word, a Hebrew word for commandment, according to Torah requirements. The act was not kosher for additional reasons, including a heifer was chosen for the exercise whose overall color was red, but was nevertheless the most invalid and unkosher of the heifers in our possession. Its tail was damaged and it had a defect, right? Because it has to be like a perfect red heifer, no injuries, and it can't have performed any work and a bunch of other stuff. Likewise, the priestly garments worn by the Cohen, or priest, conducted by the practice exercise were not consecrated. The purpose of the exercise was to improve our readiness for producing the ashes, and indeed, the exercise improved our understanding of the process as well as the Cohen's skill, and also revealed various weak points that we must deal with, such as the proper way to lead the heifer to its destination. Number 4, for this reason, the ashes were mostly left by us in place without any care on our part. We did collect samples of the ashes by people who were tamei met, or impure due to contact with the corpse, and are therefore rendered ineligible for performing this mitzvah, only for the purpose of checking whether the equipment we have is suitable for the task, and important lessons were learned in this regard as well. In any case, all of the ashes are completely ineligible. So, I don't know. Again, the Adam King, he may have just been given bad information. Maybe the telephone game was at play where one person says something to another and then it gets transformed. Like the original thing that was said is transformed into something else. Or maybe he's not the most reliable person. Maybe he had ulterior motives. I have no idea. I don't know. But let me just say this. We should really be skeptical, I think, of people, just random people that come out of nowhere that make big claims. You know, we need to tie things down to reality and authoritative sources. And I try and do that the best that I can. That's why I want to hear it directly from Adam. I mean, I would like to hear it directly from the Temple Institute, and that's what we're getting this time. But aside from that, Adam is a credible source. He works for Israel 365. He's a journalist, and he has a personal relationship with the head of research at the Temple Institute. So I'm going to trust what he says over just random people that show up. And the other thing, I've been surprised so many times when some of you have taken things to be official, like big announcements coming through random people like this. Like if something official happens, it's going to come through an official channel. Um, and there are a lot of, and I'm not calling this person um, a con artist or a charlatan or anything like that, but there are people out there that have agendas. There are people that are predators. There are people that um, have their own motives for doing things. And they would have you believe that something big happened. You know, there's new scriptures that are going to come out. There's this big important event. In this case, these are the ashes of the red heifer. And it's not going to come out that way, you guys. It was kind of like that with the Kirtland Temple. In that case, there was like a satire article that was written by, some website. And some people were thinking that Elon Musk had purchased the Kirtland Temple. I would say if it doesn't sound right to begin with, you should look at it with suspicion and then you should do research. What source is that information coming from? In the case of that story of Elon Musk purchasing the Kirtland Temple, it came from some just no-name website, a website I've never heard of before. But then if you do just a little bit of digging, you realize, oh, this is a satire website. They just do funny, fake articles for the sake of, having a joke. So anyway, we have to be careful with where we get our information. Okay. Number 5, anyone who claims otherwise, that the heifer was kosher and the ashes produced from it are kosher for the purpose of purification, is mistaken and misleading, either intentionally or unintentionally. Number 6, there are currently 4 red heifers at the Shiloh site, some of which are owned by Rabbi Ariel, head of the Temple Institute. Their halakhic, or that's like Jewish law, their halakhic status has not yet been definitively determined, and we are monitoring them. Number 7, the real red heifer will be made, God willing, when we have a kosher red heifer, according to the opinion of the rabbis of the Temple Institute and the rabbis they consult with, and when we are ready in all other aspects of the matter. This is a long process that requires patience and perseverance. Okay, and then we have this statement from the Sanhedrin, issued on November 10th, ruling of the Sanhedrin court on the matter of red heifer ashes. And by the way, the Sanhedrin, just like the Temple Institute, I wouldn't view these organizations as, like, it's not like all Jews across the world would accept them as valid. They're kind of, in a way, I think you could classify them as like activist groups, although I think some Jews would accept them as authoritative. So don't think that like all of Judaism is like, oh, there's a ruling from the Sanhedrin. Absolutely not. But there are some that would view them as valid. Okay, we sat together as one court. Questions have reached the Sanhedrin regarding red heifer ashes, and particularly regarding the recent exercises that was conducted. We hereby announce that we completely rely on the attached announcement from the Temple Institute, and we address all Gentiles throughout the world with the following call. We, the Sanhedrin, whose ancestors and families stood at Mount Sinai and witnessed the revelation of the Holy One, blessed be he, to the entire world, generation after generation. We have studied the Torah that the Holy One, blessed be he, gave us. And we know that the Holy One, blessed be he, asked those who come into the world to accept upon themselves the 7 Noahide commandments. So in Judaism, their understanding is that we're not expected to keep all the commandments of the Bible. Like, for example, the 613 commandments that they've identified in the Old Testament are to be kept by the Jews specifically. But if you're not a Jew, you're only expected to live 7 commandments called the Noahide commandments, referring to Noah. And there's a chapter that talks about the descendants of Noah. And in Judaism, they've identified what they believe to be 70 nations of the earth with different lineages. And so, with the exception of the Jews, anyone from those lineages are only have to obey these 7 commandments. Okay, the moment a person accepts upon ourselves the 7 Noahide commandments, they receive directly from the Holy One, blessed be he, 3 amazing gifts. They receive a portion of the soul, they receive a portion of the world to come. They are called righteous among the nations. Anyone who invents something other than the 7 Noahide commandments causes those who listen to him to sin. And this includes anyone who invents that the ashes from a red heifer exercise pure. Okay. Anyone who invents that the ashes from a red heifer exercise purify Gentiles or heals Gentiles or anything else. Such a person is among the fraudsters and swindlers, and one must distance oneself from him and distance him. So those are pretty strong words. And again, I would have to look up the original interview. I can't remember if they play it here. I guess they do on Sling and Stone. So that's kind of I don't know, I guess directed toward Byron and other people claiming that the ashes were used to heal people. Of course, Byron is a Christian, so whatever his theology is, he may view it as oh yeah, the Jews are still, they're a chosen people. Or I don't know how other Christians view Jews. Some of them are very friendly to the Jews and still view them as a chosen people, even though they haven't accepted Christ. And so maybe in his theology, it's well, they're trying to do the right thing according to their understanding. And this was a holy thing that took place. And even though this may not be the real thing, these are still holy ashes because of what they represent, this attempt to prepare for the temple. So I don't know. Maybe it's something along those lines, but the Sanhedrin is pretty clear with how they feel about it. So, all right. Well, this is our most recent update about the red heifers. And so it's my most recent entry on my spreadsheet called Judaism Temple Preparation. We have this official announcement from the Temple Institute and a statement from the Sanhedrin that clarify that that was not the real thing. Okay, well, that's going to be it for this one. I'll talk to you guys later.